Would you like to learn how to print on envelopes? Any size of envelope on either side, junk mail, envelopes you get the Dollar Tree or whatever? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to show you an easy method for doing that. Hi everyone, it's Jean from Inky Studio. Oops. And all you need is of course, your Inkjet printer, some freezer paper, and some parchment paper, and some masking tape. That's all you need to print on either side of the envelopes and to make really fun envelopes your own that will go in your journal and match everything. Or if you want to print out some envelopes just to have to mail to different people or whatever. So yeah, let's get started. So we're going to begin with freezer paper. And what I did was I just traced cardstock, a sheet of 8x11 cardstock on it because that's what my printer takes. And I'm just going to cut that out and have a page. Now the thing about freezer paper, of course, is that it has a plain side, that's a paper side, and then this side it feels like a waxy side, but it's actually a plastic coating on that side. So it's important to keep those two sides separate, or to know which side is which. Because it's so curly, I will reverse roll it just to maybe straighten it out a tad bit more than it is. Now to put this through your printer, it works better if you have something a little bit firmer on the bottom for the feed. So what I do on the paper side, I like to put down some either masking tape or painter's tape would be good. Clear packaging tape might work, but something a little on the stiff side, just to give that a little bit something better for your printer to grab. And I put that on the paper side, of course, and I put it at both ends. And the reason I put it at this end is because when we go to print, we're going to be printing on the waxy side, and this curling can sometimes just get real messy. So I put it on both sides. Just like so. Make sure that you don't have any sticky side showing on the opposite side here. And this is a little bit, a little bit below the edge, but that's okay as long as you are in that vicinity. So we will just trim this off. So the next thing you'll want to do is you want to grab some parchment paper, and parchment paper is critical. And you can use the same piece over and over and over again, but this will prevent that waxy or that plasticky side to getting on your iron or getting on your ironing surface. So parchment paper is very important. We're going to now take our taped piece and we're going to turn it up on the waxy side, and we're going to get our envelope. And I'm going to get just a regular, well, I think I'll get a regular envelope this time. I'm going to get a regular envelope. And this is just one of those envelopes you buy at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to mount this down. This is the side that I want to print on, so it's going to face me. It's going to be down on the waxy side. I'm going to avoid the borders of my paper because I have a border on my prints. If you have a borderless printer, you don't have to worry about that, but I don't want to align it on the edge because it won't print a little bit of strip down there. So I'm making sure that my envelope is in the middle. I'm now going to turn it over so that the waxy side is now on top of the parchment paper. So this is my sandwich here that I've created. And I'm going to get my iron. Now my iron is an inexpensive iron I use for crafts, and there really is no setting for different fabrics. So all I did was I set it on the highest setting and just made sure that my water reservoir was empty. So recheck your sandwich again to make sure you have the paper side facing you, which you'll be able to recognize because you've got the tape there. Make sure your envelope is somewhat straight, and I can kind of see through here to make sure that it is straight. I don't know if you can pick that up. And that you have on the bottom your parchment paper. So what we're going to do, we're going to iron it, but we're just not going to iron it for very long. We're just going to go over it like that, because this is the first time we've used this sheet of waxing paper. Freezer paper, it will have plenty there to pick up. Now, if you'll turn it over, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that whichever end you feed in, and I'm going to feed it in on this end just because it seems to have sealed pretty good there. This side did not seal well, and it won't matter because if I feed it this way, this will follow suit. But if you need to, you can turn it over and just go a little bit longer, right? So that you can be assured that your envelope, I'm running my nail around the edges, is just tacked down quite well. So if I put it in my Inkjet printer, I'm going to be putting it in here, this way down. I apologize for the lighting here, but what I wanted to do was just show you how it is feeding through my printer, and I wanted you to kind of listen to it because it can be alarming if you've never done this before, but you're going to hear some cracking and stuff like that. But as long as it's feeding through, everything is perfectly fine, and we will just see what the results is here. All right, I've taken it out of the printer. Now you want to be careful because the ink that is on the plasticky or waxy side is not going to be dry. It's going to get on your fingers, so it will wash off. If it's not permanent ink, it'll wash up. But if you want to, you can wear gloves, you know, to take it out and everything. So I'm just going to take a piece of, you know, paper towel here, hold it, and I'm going to peel it off. And it will peel off pretty nicely. Now sometimes in this particular one there's a little bit that's left over here, and usually that happens if I put the iron down too long, and I think I probably did. But anyways, here is the envelope all printed, and this is all ready. Now this is going to be a grungy process because sometimes, this one isn't so bad, but sometimes ink, let me see if I can find an example. Sometimes ink is going to rub off on different parts of it because this is a little bulky to put when you put it through your printer, and some of these envelope parts are going to be higher than other parts, so it will kind of rub a little bit. So this is not a perfectly clean process, but most of the time it just kind of adds to the character of it. Now you're going to be left with this part. Now you can use, I've used the same sheet 2 times, and it seems to be a good amount because you want enough waxy stuff left over to secure the next envelope. And so what I do with this, I take a scrap piece of paper underneath, and I use a damp baby wipe, and I just start wiping it off. And I have the scrap paper underneath there because, as you can see, it's kind of wiping off onto the other surface. So just wipe it off like so. And here I am going to get ink on my fingers. So probably if you have a nice manicure, you're going to want to wear gloves for this process. And we'll just wipe this stuff off. Now you'll want to make sure before you use this piece of wax freezer paper again, you'll want to make sure that this is dried off. So here are some tips I want to talk to you about printing on this side. So a lot of times these envelopes we get are security envelopes, and it's going to have this pattern in there. And most of the time I don't like this pattern. Well, at least for what I'm doing, I'm not going to like it. And there's 2 ways that we can deal with this. We can just go ahead and print it so that we get this side printed out, and then come back in with a piece of paper, and we'll just make a little liner for here by, you know, marking out the width so that it fits inside. I'm just a little shy of the width of that envelope, and then I cut it off right about here just so that it sticks inside pretty well. So I'll cut this paper down so that it slips in like so, and then I'll cut around, whoops, I will cut around the outside of the envelope. So now I've got like a little insert in here. Now I can either do this before or after I print, depending. So if I have some pattern paper that I want in here, I will do it after. I'll do this process of cutting this out afterwards and use pretty pattern paper to line it with. Or if I want to just print everything the same as it is, then I will do this and glue it in before I print it. Like so, just going around the edges a little bit here in this area, and I will pre-glue it to the envelope in this way. In one print it's all done. The only downside of doing it this way is that when you open it up, it's going to see white down here, so it won't look like it's all the way inside. And it's up to you. It depends on how you're going to be using your envelope. If you're going to be using this as a pocket, in other words, you're going to seal it up, maybe cut the one of the ends and use it as a pocket, you won't have to worry about printing it on this side at all. So the only time that I'm really going to be concerned about the inside of this envelope is if I'm going to use it as an envelope. So there's two ways you can do it, and whichever one you prefer. So of course now we're going to be printing on this side. And I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to choose the shiny side, right? And I'm going to see if I can't get that straight. I'm trying to kind of like print it on a different area that I have not ironed it on before. Just like this middle area, I've ironed it, and there's a little bit here that was not ironed before, so I'm just going to set that envelope down a tad bit and iron it there. And so we'll put it down on our parchment paper. Make sure that it is straight. Okay, since we've already used one ironing of that freezer paper, this time might require a little bit longer ironing. So I'm going to go over it like this and test it out. And yeah, there's a little bit here working up, so I may have to go over that portion a little bit. Not much longer though, really. Just saying, you may have to test to make sure that you are sealed up pretty good there in those areas. Yep, that's sealed really well. And again, I forgot to tell you that my ink setting on my printer is standard, or you know, it's not the best, it's not the draft, it's like in between. If I print it out on the best, it really is inky to wipe off, and I think you waste a lot of ink that way. All right, I have printed it through, and we're just going to peel it off like so. And then I'm going to dispose of this. You know, I think there might be enough here for like another project. You know what, let's try it a third time, because I haven't done that yet. Let's just see if a third time will work. So here is our finished envelope, very pretty, and we'll just fold it over. Okay, so that's really pretty, isn't it? And the only thing, like I say, is when you look inside here, there's going to be some white. And so therefore you can either put that liner in there after or before, just depending on how you'd like that to work for you. And I'm just going to right now, because I'll forget, I'm going to add a little bit of glue right here because it's the envelope's not fully glued there. Okay, so here is our pretty envelope. I love it. Okay, now let's do something. Let's talk about something different. So the special things about this envelope, of course, is the window envelope. And I'm going to go ahead and clean up my I'm going to clean this up, and then we're going to talk about the windowed envelopes. Now, the special challenge you'll have with the windowed envelopes is you do not want to iron on that portion of it because it will melt it. So we still have a workaround with that. So I'm getting my waxy paper, my waxy side up on my freezer paper. Excuse me, and I'm going to lay this down. Now, there's like a portion, the window is on this side, and there's this plain portion here. I am going to be putting that down like so. Okay, and see, I got a cord underneath there. And I'm going to be ironing in this area here and perhaps up this area. If I can keep my lefts and rights straight, because when we turn it over, it'll be this area and this area. Right, and that's the way I'm going to do that. And I'm going to iron the bottom portion, avoiding that window because it will definitely melt. Okay, let's just see what we got here. This is the third time I'm using this, so okay. Well, I don't think 3 times is going to work. This is really so I experimented with you here. Let's just try it again. Maybe I'll hold it down a little bit longer. Let's see if we can get that to work. There we go. All right. Okay, so that was good. All right, I think that's going to be great. I might just run it up this edge here, avoiding the window, of course, just to secure it a little bit more. Let's peel this away and see what we got. And there we go. Now you will have ink over the little window, easy, just like we did with cleaning the sheet. We're going to take a damp baby wipe. And, well, actually, we're going to try a dry one first. I think a dry one will work. Yep, let's do a dry one. There you go. We'll do a dry paper towel and go over it 2 or 3 times. Now, if I use the wet baby wipe, I would be running the ink around the window would run a little bit, which might not be bad if you wanted to do a grungy envelope. But there you go. So that is all ready. I am not going to use this a 4th time. I think this 3rd time was just about right. So I will just toss that out. And so now you have your window envelope. Now, of course, when you go to decorate it, you're going to have to cover up some of these spots here, because you probably don't want that unless you're doing, you know, a steampunk, maybe a steampunk journal. You can leave it there and just cover up the name or something. But anyways, you'll have to decorate around that. And you can, of course, easily print the opposite side. What I might do with this is I probably would do this. I would probably cut a slit here for a pocket, and then I would turn this up here for like a back pocket. So it'd be like a floating triple pocket, because you've got have a pocket there, one between these 2 places, and that would be kind of fun. I think I might end up doing that with this piece. But that is the trick of printing on the windows. Now, the last thing I'd like to talk about are these policy envelopes that you can get. And the important thing is, if it has a brass brad, make sure you remove it. That would be very, very important, to remove that brass brad. But for these, they don't have any. They're just plain envelopes. And I was going to get my glue and glue that down there. And the thing we can do here then is, these are the sealing kind. I don't particularly care for the ones that seal, because now we have to deal with this. We don't want to, of course, put this through our printer. So we're going to have to just take a scrap piece of paper. So I ran a little bit of glue around that flap. I'm just going to glue this in a little bit, like so. Yeah, get it tucked in there. Okay. And then we'll just, of course, go ahead and cut around here like we did before. And that way we've, now this will work for any envelope that has that peely, sticky thing. I would highly recommend you glue paper over it before you put it in your printer. What I'm going to show you on this envelope can be done in any envelope, and it has to do with directional printing. Before I do that, though, I did want to point out that this envelope is, you know, it fits on my page perfectly, but I'm going to have a border there and a border down here if I put it in my printer. So I'm just going to merely cut part of that flap off because it's a very generous flap. Okay, so that's better. It fits on there nicely now. So for a policy envelope like this, what I want to do is I want the direction of my print to go this way. when I print my page out, because it's a portrait orientated print, when I printed it out, I immediately put down an arrow here to show where the top is, and this is where I'm going to feed my envelope in. So I want the image to appear like this on my envelope, so therefore this is the side that I'm going to feed in first to my inkjet printer. You can, I just printed this out on draft on a piece of copy paper, and I can now position, figure out the position for my print. I also reduced this print a little bit so that so that this image fit on my envelope. So I'm printing this at, I believe like at, I think it was 90%, something like that. I just reduced it a little bit only because I wanted the image to be smaller. You don't have to reduce it for sure. And so this is the way I want it to look on my envelope, as you can see. So when I put this on my paper, and I have a new fresh sheet of paper there, I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to match this paper to my sheet, right? So this matches the freezer sheet that I made. Everything matches on the edges and corners. And then I'm going to be looking here, kind of lifting, looking, just to see that things are pretty straight. Now this is not a perfect science because this can shift a little bit in the printing process, but it'll be pretty close to being straight. This is where I want it to be. So now I will have to hold this carefully, and you might want to, until you get settled with it, you might want to just clip it in like so that it doesn't shift for you. So here it's printed, and I did want to show you that because I had to apply a little bit more heat to it. It does stick to the wax paper a bit, so just carefully, slowly peel it off and everything will be okay. So here is that printed envelope, and it's perfect, right? It might shift a little bit in your printer, but I kind of chose an image that, doesn't have to be right on centered, but this actually is pretty good. So there it is on this side here. So it makes a lovely, lovely envelope for your journal. Now this is large, but this, you could put it into your journal this way. You can print in such a way that, you have images that are orientated like this. Anyways, this method will allow you to print on here any way that you would like it to turn out. But this is lovely. This is lovely. I think I'm going to use this in my everyday life. So this would be beautiful to do if you want to organize your ephemera or whatever, and you just want it to look really pretty when you get it out and look at it. But anyhow, that is how that works. And of course, you're going to print on this side the way that we've been doing all along. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like it. I will list down below a couple of my other tutorials that I think you might be interested in. And this was a lot of fun. I hope you do try this. I just wanted to point out really fast before I go that here's the cloth I used to mop up the excess ink. And when it dries, it can become something interesting for fodder, for sort of a kind of a fabric type of addition to your collaging. And also, I'm going to keep using the same paper, and eventually this will be an interesting piece of fodder as well. So, thanks so much for viewing, and we will see you real soon. Bye!